Hey guys, welcome to another My Life with ADHD. I'm sorry I haven't had a new one out for the past couple of weeks. Not only have I been really busy, but I ended up getting really sick, so sick that I couldn't even really talk. I'm feeling a little bit better now, and I thought it would be great to resume the series. So today we're going to talk about how my ADHD still holds me back, and this is going to be different for everyone. We've covered a lot about like the accommodations I've had to make in my life, how it affects me doing conventions, turning sort of negatives into positives or selling points. But I think it's important to still take stock and look at how your ADHD is still holding you back potentially, and brainstorm ways that you can kind of overcome some of those things. So for me, the way my ADHD still holds me back is I still lack that attention to detail that a lot of artists have. And sort of super detailed, very realistic works or incredibly stylish, very cartoony works tend to be what is predominantly popular right now in comics and for YouTube art and pretty much any kind of like commercial art right now. Those are really big selling points. And I just don't have the attention to detail for the first. And I guess my taste level is just not up to the second. So that is something that's still holding me back, and it affects me in a lot of ways. I do try to be really good about catching small details and fixing small errors, but it really helps for me to have other people beta read my thumbnails, my roughs, and catch things that I might have missed. Even things as basic as tangents, like tangential lines in comics, which is a big no-no, is something that I will miss. Or like balloon placement, maybe it's not as important to me as it would be to somebody who has kind of more polished and refined comic taste. So I feel like that lack of attention to detail really hurts me professionally. And it's something I'm working on improving. I feel like noticing things, paying attention to things, taking note of things is something you can work like a muscle. So it's something I'm working on, but I also juggle so many things, and that's not bragging, that's like a problem. I juggle so many things that it's actually very difficult for me to devote that attention. So I also need to work on getting things off of my plate and stopping certain projects. Another area my ADHD affects me is that I am really bad with follow through. And I think this is going to be, anybody listening to this is going to be like, yeah, that sounds like me. If you email me about something professional, I will probably get it at like 10 o'clock at night, because that's when people seem to want to email about professional things, is late at night when I'm not working. And I'll be browsing on my phone and I'll see it and I'll be like, okay, I'll respond to that tomorrow morning when I'm fresh, I'm awake, and it's my working hours. And then I won't check it, or I won't see it, or it gets flagged as read and I miss it. Same thing with texts. And, you know, a 5-hour delay, a 2-day delay, that's kind of fine. That's kind of normal. Like if you email a company, sometimes it takes them weeks to get back to you, right? But I think we all also know the feeling of like, oh, I waited so long to email them back. It's really awkward for me to email them now. I'm just going to wait until I have something really important to say. And so that response goes from like, you know, a week's time to like, it never happens. So I really want to get better at the follow through. And this also kind of ties in with my anxiety and depression. And some of these stem from having ADHD. I feel anxious that I am always annoying people, or that people pretend to like me, but they're not. They don't. They just humor me. My depression tells me that I am not a good enough person. I am not a good enough artist to be worthy of someone else's time. So I should just shut up and sit back down and be quiet and not bother anyone. And those are horrible things to deal with. And the artists I know who are not ADHD or see support from different avenues don't deal with those pressures the way people with ADHD seem to deal with them. So getting better at the follow through is very important to me, especially this year. That's one of the things I'm kind of working on. And I just mentioned my anxiety and my depression, right? Well, another big, huge problem for me is that I have anxiety/depression cycles. So there will be periods of time where I am incredibly anxious and I get loads of work done, but I'm not actually paying enough attention. So I'm getting work done, but it's not quality work. It's not good work. And then I will cycle into depression, where I just expended all this energy, all this anxious, nervous energy, and now I'm depleted and I'm on like a down slope, and my brain and my body reads that as depression, and I start having trouble with intrusive thoughts, and I have trouble I get work done, but I'm depressed, so you can tell it's not as joyful as some of the other things I do, or it's not as well thought out, or I haven't spent as much time on it. And the anxiety and the depression cycling, it's really vicious, and it was much worse 2 years ago. I've been really working on improving how I think about myself and how I talk to myself. But it's still something I'm really working on. I'm an ambivert, so I need attention, I need interaction, I need engagement, I need encouragement, I need those things. And I grew up in a household where my brother's issues were always so much more important to my family than mine were. So I kind of grew up in a family where my needs were met, but they were kind of always secondary. And then going through school, I always felt like my needs were not really addressed, so I just kind of kept quiet and kept to myself. So I don't really have like a strong background of family and friends who are very vocally supportive and checked in and engaged in my work. And I've noticed that artists who seem to be successful have that. They have a really strong core of like 10 people cheering for them and supporting their work and talking about that work. And not all of us have that, and I don't have that. So I need that interaction, so the way I kind of make up for that is I will go and interact with other artists, and I will give them the things I wish I was getting. I will be super encouraging of other people, and I'll be very complimentary of their work, and I'll beta their work, and I'll do all of these things that take a lot of energy, but it doesn't come back to me. So I'm putting a lot of energy out there, and I'm not getting a lot of energy back, and as an ambivert, that's a problem. I can't just go shut myself up in a room and recharge, because I need that energy in return. So it means I usually will seek it, if I have the courage to, I'll seek it from outside sources. So sometimes my artistic life and my social life are completely divorced, because my social life, we don't talk about the things that I do. I don't, like with my non-artist friends, they don't ask anything about what I do. They don't know anything about my life. They're not interested in that at all. And then with my artist friends, we're usually so busy talking about what they're working on and what they're doing that I don't feel confident in talking about what I'm working on and what I'm doing. So it's something I want to work on. And a lot of artists seem to either be introverts, so you see a lot of support and encouragement and understanding for people who are like, oh man, I just did a show and I got to go lock myself up in my room for a month to recover. And you don't actually see a lot of extroverts in comics, but there are a few. Those tend to be like the really sparkly personalities. So like us ambiverts, we need to like unite and join forces and encourage each other, and then have distance would be nice. And then another thing I have problems with, and maybe this is surprising to some people, is keeping my commitments. And I don't mean paid engagements. I mean, I will get really excited about other people's projects, and I'll like offer to help them, and then I'll get so overwhelmed with what's on my plate or just my environment that I can't follow through the way I would have liked to have followed through. Or another thing is, yes, I'm an ambivert, right? But I'm actually incredibly shy. And if I'm required to meet someone by myself for the first time and I don't have someone coming with me, I just won't go. I've had some like really terrible things happen to me at cons that have made me incredibly gun shy. So while I don't think the fact that I am leery of meeting strangers by myself is a problem. I think that is called precaution. There are some things I would like to improve in those regards, especially regarding keeping commitments, following up with people, like sending out professional postcards and not feeling like I'm just a huge worthless garbage burden who doesn't deserve to take up their time by sending a postcard. So these are all things that they tie in with my ADHD or the experiences I've had because I am ADHD or because my brain is wired differently from other people. These are all things I want to continue working on. And one of the ways I want to continue working on it, I've been reading, as you guys probably know, I've been reading a lot of ADHD self-help books because there isn't necessarily a lot of resources for adults with ADHD. And if you're a woman with ADHD, there's even fewer resources. Most of them are geared towards men and helping men because the assumption is still that men are the ones, or boys are the ones with ADHD, not necessarily girls. And then a lot of the books written for women assume one of two things. They assume that you're going to leave the burner on, that you are the sort of person who will burn rice, and I'm not making fun of you if you are, but like they assume that you tune out so much. I don't really know how to put this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm judging, because I'm really not. But they just assume that you're kind of off in la la land all the time. Or they assume you're already a very successful professional woman and you don't need our help, but you should be observed as an example. But nobody talks about how those people got there. They also assume we all have kids, which is kind of like, or are all menopausal, right? Okay, so I'm either a space case who burns rice and sets my house on fire, or I am menopausal, and I'm having a lot more trouble with my ADHD, or I'm highly successful and everyone should admire me because I'm a successful person who works in psychology, because that's all their success stories do, is work in psychology, or I've got kids and I'm trying to juggle my kids. So I have never found any information or support in books for women with ADHD, for a woman who's in a position similar to mine, where you're self-employed, you have to be self-reliant, you're responsible for all the products you produce, you're responsible for all the customer service, you're responsible for the taxes, you're responsible for the environment, you're responsible for the supplies, you're responsible for promotion. That's a lot, right? And like, there's a lot of female identifying people with ADHD, right, who fit in that category. A lot of us are artists. So it's like, why aren't there better resources for us? I don't know. So what I would like to do is I would like to start seeing an ADHD coach, because I feel like I've kind of hit the end of what I can do to help myself. I know how to use a planner. I know how to schedule things. I know how to use my phone. I know how to schedule things on my phone. I know how to do alarms. I don't just miss appointments. I don't just forget appointments because I have anxiety to keep me reminded about that at 12 o'clock at night over and over and over again. When I forget things for cons, it's usually really trivial things that like a normal person who doesn't have ADHD could forget something like that too. And then there's also things that are just out of my control, like the overstimulation at MTAC, for example. Like, I could not have controlled that. I could physically remove myself and go home, but they were not going to stop. They didn't even listen to con staff, so they weren't going to stop. So, like, I feel like when it comes to these sort of hurdles, I'm doing the best I can to limp along by myself, but it's time to start talking to somebody who can maybe help me on a personal level and help me start working through some of these things in kind of a sustainable way where we can make a game plan and we can attack it systematically, which is, I don't know about you guys. I know some people really don't like structure. Some ADHD people really don't like structure because it can be very stifling. But I really like structure because I have trouble holding myself accountable if there's no structure. And if there's structure, it's much easier for me to do that. So I've already started looking into ADHD coaching in the Nashville area. And my kind of game plan is like start with coaching and see what they recommend, and then maybe try to find a psychologist or a psychiatrist if they recommend that I start seeking medication. I haven't taken medication for my ADHD since I was 16, and I don't know if it will help because I had such, as I told you guys, I had such a weird, bad experience with Ritalin, considered Adderall, and a pediatrician who was not concerned with like kind of holistically helping me as a person learn how to deal with my disability. He just thought popping pills in my mouth was going to solve the problem, and if it didn't, then I was just not trying hard enough. So I have not had, it's been a while. I am open to the idea of having a different experience with medication, but I also am like really hesitant to believe that it's going to cure my problems, and I really feel like I need sort of a mentor or a guru. Like, I would love to have a comics mentor. I think a lot of you guys would love to have a comics mentor. Someone who is further along in the path and can look at what you're doing and be like, that works, that doesn't work, that works, that doesn't work, and they actually know what they're talking about. But so many of us don't have that in our lives. So I'm going to try for the next best thing and get an ADHD guru. And if I have to pay for an ADHD guru, I will have to pay for an ADHD guru, and I'll just sell a kidney or something. I don't know. But I really feel like at this point in my career, my ADHD is holding me back in so many ways. Maybe my art isn't good enough. I don't know. But I definitely do know that the anxiety, the depression, talking myself out of taking professional risks that could actually make my life better, putting myself out there like an actual professional, those are all things that can maybe actually make a difference, or at least help me gain some more mileage on my journey, because I really feel like my life has not changed or improved since like 2014. So I'm sick of that. I'm tired of that. I'm ready to take charge. I'm ready to seek some outside help. I'm kind of tired of being the oldest woman with ADHD that I know. That's really depressing. I need someone to like look up to and admire and kind of like borrow things that work for them and adapt them into my life. So it's definitely a change I want to make in the upcoming year. So today we talked about how I feel like my ADHD holds me back. We discussed a lack of attention to detail. We discussed being bad at following through. We discussed how anxiety and depression cycling can hold you back and keep you down. Did we discuss low self-worth? I feel like that was like an ongoing theme throughout the whole thing. If that wasn't obvious, then hey, it's obvious. And then in comics, it's like, no, you have to believe in yourself. You're part of the sales. And it's like, I know that, but I need more feedback and encouragement telling me what I'm doing right so I can feel like I'm actually making progress, because otherwise I will just doubt everything I do and feel like I'm a garbage person, which is a terrible burden to put on somebody else, right? We talked about being an ambivert and needing that interaction, and how there isn't necessarily a lot of support for ambiverts in the comics community. And we also discussed keeping commitments and how that can be difficult, especially when there isn't any sort of structure involved to help you keep those commitments. We also discussed a possible, or what I feel like might be a possible solution in my life, which is to seek coaching for my ADHD as a step towards growing as an adult person with ADHD. And we also discussed what I kind of feel like is like the big downfall for the ADHD help books for women, in that there is like a huge gap of time from your 20s until your 40s where they just don't talk about it. And it's like, what? Did your ADHD magically go away? Like, I know that they talked in great length about how when you get pregnant, your ADHD might get better. And it's like, that's great. I'll just go get pregnant now and stay pregnant for 10 years. Awesome. Thanks, guys. But you're also not supposed to be on your medication if you're pregnant. So I don't know. Those books are fun. And when I say fun, I mean your mileage may vary. And some of them are great and some of them are really frustrating. And some of them don't apply to some of us at all. So I hope to find the solutions I seek through coaching, and then perhaps through medication, and then maybe also through a support group. But I need to get to that point, and the first point for me in trusting someone else with helping me with a topic that's become so painful and so full of self-shame and full of like disappointment and letting myself down is seeking an outside coach, preferably someone who not only deals with adults with ADHD, but maybe even has ADHD themselves and has found ways to cope with it. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'm just recovering from getting sick, so I know I look really crummy. I still feel kind of crummy, but so many of you have been really supportive with this My Life with ADHD project. I didn't want you guys to think I just disappeared or that I just shut it down or whatever. I am intensely grateful for the encouragement that you guys have given me and the stories you shared with me. You guys are incredibly brave putting yourselves out there like that, and I can only hope that it was a rewarding experience for you, that nothing detrimental came from that you didn't worry about it or fret about it or have anxiety over it or anything like that, because it really means a lot to me that you guys felt comfortable opening up to me about your own struggles. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to ask you guys to share with me how you feel like your ADHD is currently holding you back. It can be professional, it can be personal, it can be romantic. However you really feel like it's detrimental to you and holding you back, share it with me however you're comfortable. You can tweet it at me, you can DM me over Twitter, but I will warn you, if we're not mutuals, I don't always see those messages, notifications for those messages in like a timely manner. So if I don't respond, it's not that I'm ignoring you, I literally just haven't seen it. You can share it in the comments below, you can email me, you can do a video response, however you are comfortable talking about how this might still hold you back. I want to hear it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Next week, we're probably going to talk about how ADHD inspires our lives. So we have an uplifting topic to look forward to next week. So I'll see you guys then. Bye!